So how am I supposed to find time for God? Like, does God hate me because I haven't? And, I think that God understands our seasons too. You know, there's a time for everything.
Yeah. And so to kind of set the theme of this podcast, or, what it is that we're really getting into, I just want to get into Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1 through 8.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm not going to go into the entire thing because it kind of starts speaking for itself. But the first line, there is a time for everything. It says there's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to weep and a time to laugh. And it goes so forth. And it's talking about exactly what we're going through.
Yeah.
When we first started this podcast, it was a time to hustle.
Yeah.
It was a time to get into it. It's time to put out as many episodes as we could, follow through every Monday at 12 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
And we did it. We did it. We pushed it through. And then we hit a point where it's like, okay, if we continue, we're going to not only drain ourselves, but we're going to hate this podcast.
Yeah. And we're not going to give our best.
And we're going to hate ourselves for it. You
Yeah.
go, I don't want to sit in this chair and not feel like I can't not only receive, but I can't also give to you guys something that God shared with me or God spoke to me through preaching or whatever it is. If it's a struggle for me to sit down and say, here we go again.
Like, how are we supposed to motivate you if we're not motivated ourselves?
You can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. And it was a time for us to go to the well and fill up that cup.
Yep.
And that's how I felt. And you know what? I honestly believe that in every season, God does see your effort.
Yeah.
He does understand too. He understands, well, my child is mourning right now if someone passed away.
Yeah.
Or, well, my child is working right now. He's in his season where he needs to work, or he's a student.
The reaping and sowing season.
It's all of that. All of that. There's a reason why these things are written in the Bible. There's a reason for it, because we need to understand that even God understands.
Mm-hmm.
But this isn't to say that God understands why you're not going to church anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this is just because you're busy, it's not an excuse to not be with him.
Yeah.
You get me? Just like you have a relationship with your mother, just like you have a relationship with your significant other, your siblings, whatever the case may be. You go ghost on somebody, you're losing, you're breaking, you're falling apart.
Yeah. I mean, I think about that. Apart. Like, imagine if I didn't speak to you for like a week straight.
Yeah.
And we like live together. It's the same thing. God is literally by you all the time.
Right.
And he's just kind of like there. And we're just all like, yeah. Like, imagine if I were to do that to you every single day. Like, yeah. Like, I'm playing right now.
Give me a second.
Yeah. And
I'm on Netflix right now,
And you know what the crazy thing is? I know I've gone, and I can only speak from my side. Maybe somebody can relate, right? Where I've been too busy to go to church, or I've been too busy to be a part of church. And I think to myself, no, I got stuff to do, blah, 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 blah. But then there's that side of me where it's like, I know I need to make time for God, but you know what? I'm just too busy.
Yeah.
That little moment where it's like, I need to make time for God, that you didn't just come up with that by yourself.
That's your spirit.
That's your Holy Spirit reaching out. That's God talking to you, but you're just too busy to recognize the sign.
Yeah.
If you ever feel like, like, I know I got to go to church someday. If you've said that before, believe me, that's God saying like, hey, when are you going to talk to me?
That's God's grace, honestly.
When are we going to spend time together?
Yeah. I can definitely see both sides. I am one that loves to actually see both sides of an argument and then really,
make a decision
on what I really think. So I can totally see and sympathize with someone who is busy, who has like all these goals and all these achievements that they want to do. And I can also understand why someone would be, for example, like upset seeing like, but I make the time because I work and I do this and I still make that time to look for God. So, the whole point of our podcast today is to hopefully, give you guys a little bit of perspective and hopefully find a solution for this, because I know it's happened to me plenty of times in my life where I'm like, I'm good, I'm looking for God, but then, it's for a season. And then it cools down. And then it's all like, oh, shoot, I need to get back up. And then it stops. And then it kind of keeps on going. And it's just like, I think that's a lot of people in this walk will go through that. But at the end of the day, it's about remaining faithful. You know, I definitely feel the time that I did come back and like stronger. Well, that's exactly what it is. I ended up being like even more hungry for God, even more knowledgeable of his word. And I feel like sometimes these are like droughts that we have to go through in order to learn something and then keep on going from there.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you don't appreciate what you have until it's gone. And then once you don't start, like, I feel like a lot of times we take that peace, that presence, like, for granted. And then we're like, oh, wow, like, I feel empty. Like, I feel like something's missing. You know, but I will say that if you have been questioning yourselves, like, man, why am I not looking for God, or I want to seek God, I don't have the time. Although that is not the best case scenario to be in, I think I think you're on a good path.
That's a grace in and of itself, because that's the Holy Spirit telling you.
Exactly.
You know?
Like the Holy Spirit's like, I'm seeking out to you, and you're letting it, you know, you're letting him speak to you.
Right.
Yeah. You know, I think I would be more worried for someone who didn't care, who would be like, I don't have time. Oh, well.
Yeah. They're like, that's like spiritual death at that point.
Yeah. But if you're questioning yourself, like, man, I haven't had time for God and I want to, and you're like, I'm just busy. It's like, there's hope.
Yeah.
You know, it's like God is still trying to work with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like the other thing, because I think when you're on that, what is it, like spiritual high, like you're hyped, right? He's like, yeah, you know, I'm ready. But like everything else, things fade away. And I think the best thing, I think what it's worked out for us is, for me, is consistency and being intentional with God's time.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, we're intentional with our schedule, right? Like we're intentional, like, okay, this is the time I'm going to spend time with my husband. This is the time I'm going to be clean. This is the time I'm going to be working.
Yeah.
So why can't you add that on your calendar? Put it on your Google calendars. Like, hey, God's time.
And you know, and I'm glad you mentioned that too, because anybody can say, "Oh, well, you know, I went to church." Exactly, I went to church. I made time for God.
Checked it off. Yeah.
No, what did you do in church? Did you listen to what the word was? Did you actually listen to the lyrics of the songs? Did you sing along with it? But did you sing along with it not because you want to act like a Christian, but because you're actually worshiping God with the lyrics that you're saying? Yeah. It's important to understand what it is you're doing and not just doing it because you're a creature of habit.
Yeah.
You know, and another thing that he said that I like that he pointed out was how we keep ourselves accountable, you know, because a lot of times we'll question ourselves. It's like, oh, you know, like I feel like I need to and this and that, you know, but a lot of what dismotivates us or puts us away from putting time for God is around the things that surround us, not only with work, but with the people that surround us. You know, are your friends going to church? Yeah. You know, is your family going to church?
Yeah.
If they're not, you need to surround yourself around the people that can actually get you to the position where you need to be. This goes for spiritual life, and this goes for success in life.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're around bums, you're going to be a bum.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
You are who you hang out with.
It's contagious. The people who you hang around with is important. You know,
because it will
influence you. Need to be around winners.
Yeah.
You know,
they'll influence you whether you want to or not.
Exactly.
You know, like you might think you're so strong and you're this, like, no, I'm going to be the light and stuff, which you can be. But chances are that little by little, they're going to take more away from you than you can give.
And I've seen it. You know, people who are strong spiritually, but little by little got chipped away. Because they said, no, you know, I want to hang around with this friend, and you never know, I might be able to save them, this and that. That's all great. You started off with a good intention, but little do you know is that you become more intimate with this person, and not in a sexual or relationship like boyfriend-girlfriend, but intimate in the sense like you bonding.
A friendship.
It's a true friendship, and little by little, you never know. That friendship might chisel away what it is, what that little spiritual life that you have, where you might constantly go every Sunday, then suddenly you skip a Sunday because you really want to hang out with your friend.
Yeah.
And then that skip becomes where it's yearly, then it becomes, you know, twice a year, then 3 times a year. And whether it's slow, because you might start off with a strong spiritual life, it's still happening. And that's what you need to be careful with.
The devil's like that. He's never one to just destroy your life.
Oh, he's patient.
He's like, I'll wait as long as I need to.
As long as I don't get you to heaven.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at it when I used to work in retail. I used to in this hardware store, not to mention any names, where they used to sell like things like measurement tools, and if it's off by a little bit, down the line, 100 feet, it'll be crooked. It won't start. It won't look. You won't even notice it in the beginning if you're trying to line something
It
out.
looks straight
But
to the naked eye.
To the naked eye,
right?
you can see it. But then if it's just a little off, 100 feet down the line, it'll be completely off.
You notice the
and
difference.
you won't even notice it until you get this. Like, oh, I didn't even notice I got this far.
Yep.
Had I noticed it from the beginning,
Fuego.
Yeah.
Because
So it's
it's
just-
like that. It's like that. I feel like the devil will just use any little thing to make you think it's okay, and you're like, oh, but it's just my friend, or it's
just one day.
this.
It's just
one day. It's just one drink. It's just one this, and then
Yeah.
it's like, little do you know, it's the little bit that you needed for him to just come right in through.
Yeah.